Alright, I'm back from outer space. For you, it's been a matter of days. For me, it's been seconds. As you can see, that's probably the same game that would have been on when the last video finished. If it is indeed a separate video, I might be making myself look slightly foolish, but probably not. I've forgotten which order these are going to go in. I've got all this stuff laid out in front of me. Hopefully these ones will be quicker. Right. This first one, yeah, that's why I was a bit perplexed, stumped. This first one I haven't even got. We are doing a countdown. Shall I do a countdown? Shall I do 15? Shall I shout 15? 15! In 15. Trying to think of ways people shout numbers. So I'm caught between the guy off of Bullseye or the Count from Sesame Street. I'll just say 15. 15. 15. 15. Stop shouting numbers, you idiot. You look demented. When I finally get put in the nut house, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shout numbers. Oh, anyway, where did that come from? Right, where are we starting? Yeah, I haven't got this because I didn't sell it on. This was just a really nice charity shop purchase. It's the sort of thing you see on the shelf and you go, oh yeah, nab that. Did it? I can't remember which one it came in. I've got a feeling it was in a charity shop that's since closed down and been replaced by something else. It was in an Oxfam, I think, actually. What was it? No, it wasn't. No, the one I got is still there. I know where it was now. Yeah, it was in a Scope. It was in a Scope. It's Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I'll show a picture here or there or somewhere generally there will be a picture. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I just thought I'd include this because it was a really nice sort of purchase, really nice find. Something that it's the sort of thing that a charity shop purchase is sort of perfect because I wouldn't necessarily want to pay loads of money for it on eBay or something, or spend a load of credit on it. And so if I was ever going to get a copy, it was going to be in a charity shop. And lo and behold, there was one. And I never actually got to play it though, because I can explain why Pokemon, even though it's meant to be sort of the charity, everybody who likes them says, "Oh, they're RPGs," and I totally understand that they're RPGs. But I've worked out one of the reasons I like RPGs because I like the feeling of the main character that you control in an RPG being your on-screen avatar. It's basically you on screen, and you have a sort of a certain understanding of their situation and where they are. I like being in RPGs. I like being out in the wilderness and sort of trying to get to the next sanctuary, so to speak. I like that feeling. That's why I like RPGs with game worlds. And I think with something like Pokemon games, because when you're doing the fighting, it's not you. It's that sense of being the in-game avatar. It's sort of slightly diffuse. You know, the jeopardy is sort of stretched, lessened. That's one of the reasons why I never quite appreciate Pokemon games as much as other games where it's literally you sort of your character. You are that character, so to speak. Does that make sense? It does in my head, but yeah. So in the end, I traded it in. I didn't sell it on. I traded it in because the lure of the credit was too much, and I didn't appreciate it as much as I otherwise would have if it was something else, more to my tastes. But you know, maybe one day I'd if I ever, not likely to happen, but if I ever see one for cheap, I'll get it and keep it, and I'll buy it and keep it. But in this instance, no, it was sort of the the credit was too much. But since I have traded it in, I think the amount of credit I would have got was sort of not quite doubled, but it's significantly higher than it was, which slightly galling. But but so that was number 15, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. That was, I don't know, probably about 150 or something. Right, I have got this one, number 14. No shouting numbers this one. I'm just going to say number 14, nice and simple. Marvel vs. Capcom. I thought I'd put this one in because this was one that I'd looked at and wanted to buy again. Really did want them in my collection, being a PS1 sort of, dude. PS1 dude. I'm a guy. I like PS1, that's what I'm trying to say without sounding like an idiot. But yeah. Again, not one that I would necessarily pay big bucks for, but I would have sort of wanted all the same, which sort of narrows down your options slightly. And so to see one in a charity shop was perfect. Yeah, I mean, there are other fighters on the PS1 that I don't have yet for that exact reason, like the two X-Men Marvel ones. What are they? Street Fighter, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Is it Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter? Is that what they're called? And there's Capcom versus SNK. I haven't got any of those, just because, I don't know, priorities. But this one was sort of the one that I was most keen to have out of that little selection. So it was just really nice to see it in a charity shop. So yeah. And it was in really nice nick, and it was about 152 quid or something. And I haven't got I like to keep my receipts. I haven't got a receipt, but yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom, that was number 14. Right. Now, this is a bit of a strange one. Number 13. Came in, it was some random ramshackle charity shop that's totally disorganised, and it has furniture and stuff and just general shit everywhere. And it was just sort of sitting on a shelf. It was some crappy IKEA shelves, and this was just plonked on top. And I had no idea what it was, and I thought I'd take a punt. And since I bought it, it's become more collectible than it was at the time, I think. And it's a bit of a slightly obscure PS2 game. It's called Space War Attack. It's a 505 game, or D3 Publishing. So for that reason, it's low print run, because generally they always are. This was 50p, and one of the reasons I wanted to include it because I bought it and I could feel that the disc was rattling around inside, even though it's sealed. So I wasn't going to unseal it just to put the disc in. And I thought, right, let's see if I can get the disc back in. And I sort of fiddled around with it, and eventually it stopped rattling. And I sort of squeezed it slightly, and it stopped rattling. So obviously, somehow I'd managed to get the disc back on the spindle. But yeah, this was the first copy that I got. So I was reluctant to open it. It was actually something I wanted to play. I looked up videos and it looked pretty good. It's a sort of Earth Defence Force. It's like something like Earth Defence Force, Global Defence Force with Ace Combat, Air Combat, something like that. Arcadey sort of flight combat sim. Actually quite good fun. Quite cheap. Sort of like a cheap budget title. From Japan, released in the UK by 505. But no, this was the first copy I got, and I actually ended up finding a second copy. And that copy, I suspect was what fucked up the laser on my original PS2, because the disc on it had some of the worst. I'm guessing it was laser burn, because they were concentric circles, scratches, marks, really bad. It's a blue disc game, and there was lots of them, but for some reason I thought, no, I'm gonna see if it works anyway, and put it in, and it did work. But blue disc games make slims sound pretty bad at the best of times, and this one I'm guessing it was because of all the marks on the disc. It was making my PS2 really chug. It was making some horrible noises, but it worked. It just blew my mind that it actually worked, even with all those noises. And it's quite a fun game, you know. But you can get a sense of what it's like from the from YouTube videos. But not a bad game, and I didn't want to play too much because of the sort of noises my PS2 was making. So I had a good enough go to get a sense of it, and then sort of took it out. And since then, not long after that, my PS2 stopped working. So, but that copy, I ended up taking to CEX, and they sort of like winced when they saw the disc. I wanted to get resurfaced, and they resurfaced it. Got most of the marks out. They had the sort of those, the marks you get when it's been buffed, but it looked decent enough, and it worked fine. And I sold it on eBay. That one, I said, because there's no reason to have two copies. If I want to play this, I'll open it. And I sold that on eBay, and I'm guessing it was fine because the person I sold it to hasn't sent it back. So, yeah, that's 50p. Again, that has become, the price has gone. Although you can never really can tell with these sorts of games because they sell so rarely that people who have copies for sale overestimate the prices dramatically. I can't remember whether I put it on that particular copy on Buy It Now. I think I put it on pretty low because I generally do, sort of lower than anything else that's available at the time. But yeah, I think it's not massive. I don't know. I mean, I think you see copies going for 40 or 45 quid just because that's the only thing available, and people just probably get fed up of waiting for a decent price copy to come into, to become available. But yeah, so it's probably, take a bit off of that, it's probably its true value, but it's still 50p. If you see a PS2 game you don't recognise for 50p and it's sealed, so the likelihood of you taking a punt are pretty good. What's next? Haha. Again, another one. The price has gone a bit nuts since I purchased it. For £5, Game Boy player. Never actually use this. I play my 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 GameCube games on my Wii. So I've never had a GameCube. So the only reason to ever buy a GameCube was so I could use a Game Boy player, which is not the best reason to buy a whole console just to use an attachment. But it would be something I'd quite like to try one day, just to see how it looks. But yeah. Slight story with this. I actually found this was a £5 by the way. I did say that. I actually originally found a copy of a disc, and on its own, and I didn't know what it was. No, I did know what it was actually, but I sort of I don't know why did I say I didn't know what it was? I knew exactly what it was. Oh, sort yourself out, mate. Yeah, but I thought, yeah, it was only about £150 or something in with the DVDs. I thought, yeah, it was going back a few years, so it wasn't massively expensive, massively collectible. And I thought, yeah, I'll have that. And, it would be relatively simple to pick up a separate unit because I did know what they were. Didn't know what they were, I'm a twat. But, yeah, but it wasn't that easy. I'm sure I bid on one or kept an eye out at least, and it became more difficult to get one for a decent price, particularly one that didn't have the disc, because I thought automatically, it's not going to be that expensive because I've got the disc. But it's like trying to find, if you've ever tried to find a car only sort of DS game, you think, that'll be significantly cheaper. they're not always. That's not always the case. No, but this was again. This was sort of tricky. I thought, oh, the unit will be really cheap, but no, it wasn't. And it was just. Then one day I was in a charity shop, and there it was, sort of high up on a shelf. I can still picture it. Did I say that? Almost every single one of these purchases, I can still picture exactly as it happened. It was just sitting on the shelf. Oh, wow, bargain, and I can finally move on that disc. And yeah, this was a fiver. As I said, not used it yet, but the separate disc, I think I put it into a trades video. No one snapped it up, and I ended up taking it to the London gaming market, and I literally got rid of it inside the first 5 minutes. So I went to Retro Plushy Games, and the guy asked me if they had the unit. And I said no, it just came on its own. And he didn't seem that bothered. But so that's where it is. If anybody's ever bought a Game Boy player with a separate disc or a separate disc from Retro Plushy Games, the London gaming market, or from Retro Plushy Games, you've probably got that disc that I bought in a charity shop. So yeah, so it paid for itself in the end. So I got my money back. It's worth it. Right. Last two for this section. I probably should have cut. I might cut. Yeah, I didn't do that. I just left. Oh, what an idiot! I just left the film running. I should have probably just stopped it and started again. Right. Just to make my life more complicated. Right. Last two for this. This is number 11. Did I say number 12 or number 13? For Space War Attack and the Game Boy Player? I don't think I did. There's me making a big deal out of shouting numbers. Car crash. 11. 11. This sort of encompasses two of my charity shop tip laws stroke type thing. Observations. It's small charity shops. No, charity shops on their own. And new charity shops, because this was a single new charity shop. So, and it's my local one. I'd been out on a day out, come home, just nipped in there because it closes at 4:30, so it's not always open. And sometimes it's a bit of a struggle to actually get back to catch it before it closes. But in this instance, I got there and went in there and saw two. Oh, fuck it, why not? Sitting on the shelf. They were £4 each. Dragon Ball Advance Adventure and Metroid Fusion. And this was back when I wasn't sure if these were worth £4 each, so I left them. And actually, it must have been relatively early in the day because I went home and looked it up. Not having a smartphone or anything, I couldn't look it up there and then. So I went home, looked it up on my computer. I thought, shit, and went straight back up the road because it's only sort of 5-10 minutes, and nabbed them. So this two together, two boxed GBA games, good quality, top sort of quality GBA games. This one in particular is relatively difficult to get hold of, I think. I'm sure I looked in preparation for this video and there weren't that many available, but I might be wrong. This one is a lot more easy to get hold of, but this one's the only one I've played of the two. Really good game, actually. I keep confusing it with Metroid Zero Mission. It's not at all. It's Fusion, but really good game. I got to the point, just got stuck with one of the bosses and just really got my tits. I've not played it since. I've played a lot of it, a good chunk of the game. I've got a lot of the sort of abilities and sort of weapons and things. Beaten a lot of the bosses, but I still think there's quite a bit of the game to go. But yeah, this one's missing the insert, but they're both complete generally aside from that, and in really decent nick. And for £4, a new local charity shop, single charity shop on its own. Yeah, that's probably my best purchase from my local, that particular charity shop. Like I said, it pays out more than it probably should because it's so small. But most generally, it will be sort of, if it is going to pay out, it's going to be sort of decent sort of individual items, sort of, relatively common items. But every so often, sort of, this is the best, more uncommon item that I've found in there. Like, what else has it had in the past? Things DVDs. There's a DVD called Memories of Murder by Bong Joon Ho. Is it Bong Joon Ho? Yeah, the guy made Okja and The Host and Snowpiercer, I think. I might be confusing myself. And if you ever see a copy of that, that's a pretty collectible DVD, just a DVD copy. So if you ever see one, snap it up. And again, I found a copy of that in my local, and it's such a tiny shop, it shouldn't pay out as much as it does. But I'm convinced it's because it's on its own. That's why it gets as much stuff as it does. And it's one of these shops that will often have a sign saying they can't take any more donations. So many shops will say, "Oh, we need stuff." Every so often you'll see a shop that says we can't take any more donations. Like the opposite, they obviously get a lot of stuff. So yeah, that was 15 to 11. Cheers, thanks for watching, and look out for parts 10 to 6 of this countdown, this top quality production. Cheers, peeps. See you later. Thanks for watching.